Hey guys, it's Mizzy, and I'm a mixed girl in a mixed up world. Welcome to the show. Again, my countdown did not work. It wouldn't be a live show if there wasn't a snafu. So welcome to the show tonight. I'm going to give you guys a second to trickle in a little. Like I said, it wouldn't be a Mizzy show without a little snafu, but hopefully that's the only one because I got a lot to say tonight. So, hello, how are you? Thanks for joining me. We're going to give it a couple minutes for everybody to trickle in. Got lots and lots to say about yesterday's hearing. And while people are trickling in, I'm just going to bring up some. Oh, thank you so much, Mickey Mouse. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to bring up, I have some stuff to share with you guys. And I'll get that set for when everybody gets in. Hello, how are you? Thanks for joining tonight. I'm just going to give it a couple minutes before I get going with the show. So how is everybody doing? Does anybody have anything fun that they're doing this weekend? Me, I'm just chilling. Tomorrow I have the day off. I have some tentative plans, but I'm probably not going to be able to do it. I don't really feel that well. I'm starting to get a headache. And then Sunday, it's football. Sundays are all in the fall are all about football for me. Hi, Barb. Thanks for joining us. So what are you guys doing this weekend? You know, I got to say this. Every time I get a post-commission message in my inbox, oh, I'm frozen. Okay, and I'm back. Every time I get a post-commission I keep freezing and I don't know why. Let me see. Yeah, that's probably why. Oh, that stinks. That stinks. But you got to make that coin, so too bad we aren't all independently rich. Horse care volunteers and stocking firewood. Well, the horse care might be fun, but the firewood part, not so much. What about you, Barb? What are you doing this weekend? Okay. I'm going to get started in like another couple seconds. Do I have... Well, let me do this while I am waiting. Oh, gotta stay up there. Okay. So while I'm waiting for a few more people to trickle in, I'll go over this. So as of right now, the only standout we have is December 16th, Matthew Farwell's next hearing. The hearing is at 10:30. We're going to be there about 9. Hopefully it's not as cold as it was yesterday. Obviously, we're getting into the winter, so it's definitely going to be cold, but yesterday was definitely really, really windy and ugh. That's true. It's that repetitive, thing where you can think and do it. So I can understand that. I feel you on that. Barb is going to enjoy the glorious fall weather while it lasts. Yeah. Hello, Dana. Thank you for joining. Good to see you again since yesterday. Hi, Scott. Great job with the media the other day, everyone. Sorry I wasn't there. It's okay, Scott. You know, we know you make it when you can. But we got a lot. It was good. It was definitely worth, being out in that whipping because it's right on the water, the wind coming off the water, it was pretty chilly. Hey, Tracy. Thanks for coming. So back to what I was saying. His next standout right now is December 16th. That's also his next hearing. We haven't picked a November standout date. Barb, myself, and Annie need to coordinate so we can figure out what date we're going to pick. We definitely want to do something before Thanksgiving because, people go away and whatnot. But once we know, hopefully we'll have a date picked by my next show, which usually is on Mondays. This is a special one just because of, the hearing yesterday. Actually, while Dana and Tracy are in the chat, give me 1 second. I have a link to their page that I want you guys to make sure, if you're not following them, to please go follow them. Let me grab it. Come on, let me copy it. Give me 1 second. I'll do it this way. Dana was so great to come out and film for us yesterday so people at home could watch the standout. And, we've partnered up with Resistant to Silence. So if they can get somebody there to film, they will. And I think it's a great partnership because, it helps both of our channels grow, and it just, and, more of the community gets to see. Why is it not giving me the thing to cut, copy and paste? Barb, is there any way you can go grab their channel for me? It's my computer. My computer keeps freezing. My computer keeps freezing, so it's hard for me to get in there and grab it. So let me get into yesterday while I have Barb do that. And you guys can go. Yeah, can you just drop the, thank you, Barb. So as you guys know, Matthew Farwell had a hearing yesterday, and, I want to give a shout out to Nancy, Annie. I smile because I always go to call her Campbell instead of Nancy. Annie, Peter, and Dana, because, they all got there early and we got to do a small standout. We got to address the press that came up. Myself and Peter did an interview with, I think she said Brockton Tribune. I think that's where she said she was from. And so we got to get a little press before we went inside. And then Barb and Kristen showed up after. So shout out, for Kristen giving Barb a ride in. Thank you. So we got in. Now I got to tell you guys something funny about the hearing. I thought the judge's name was Dennis Casper. So color me embarrassed when I see I was expecting, like, in my head, like, somebody who looked like Neil Gorsuch or something like that. That's who I was envisioning in my head. Color me embarrassed and a little shocked when a very slight, petite Black woman came out. And I was like, what? But that was just me, like, being like so confused at first. She sat down, and from the second her behind hit that chair, she was like, no nonsense. And I loved it. I was living for it. I was like, let's fucking go. I'm going to read through some of my notes. I got these like little nifty notebooks that come with a pen. I am going to get some new pens because the point is too sharp and it kept going through the papers. So I was like getting a little annoyed, and I was writing, like, and my handwriting looks like a serial killer. You actually can't see it. Looks like a serial killer. Yes, I write like a serial killer. Okay. So it was the 10/16 hearing. Farwell had 5 people on his side. He had his new death penalty team. I have to look at, I cannot remember her name. Boston Globe did Laura Grimaldi from Boston Globe did a wonderful article on it, gives you background on his lawyer. And her team, and then one of the old part of his team in their paralegal. Like, she just sat down and she was all business. Like, she was just like, basically she sat down and was like, what are we doing, people? What are we doing here? I am going to put stuff on the books and you are going to write down what I have. Like, it wasn't like, oh, can you guys do this date? Can you do this date? No, these are the dates and this is what we're going to do. And I was like, oh, so my whole year is planned out. I was like living for this judge. I was like, yes. Yeah. And for those who don't know who Judge Casper is, whoops, sorry. Yeah, Judge Casper is on point. Judge Casper is the judge who did the Whitey Bulger trial. So she knows what she's doing. She's been on high profile cases before, and she's not going to put up with any bullshit. Like, she was like, let's fucking go. And she seemed a little annoyed that it has taken so long. But she also was understanding at the same time. So back to, like I said, he had 5 people on their side. The prosecution had 3, 2 women and a man, and everybody on his side are all women, which I find interesting that, all women are representing this, like, disgusting, vile person. Unfortunately, Matthew Farwell was not there. I hoped he would at least come on the screen, but he didn't grace us with his presence. I just can't wait for the day to see him walk in. And this is my fantasy, okay, guys? So I want him to walk in, and I want him and I to lock eyes, and me to just smirk at him. I won't do the other part that I would love to do, like wave and blow him a kiss. I won't be that obnoxious, although I would love to do it, but I don't want to get kicked out of court. But I want him and I don't care if it's even the last day of his trial. I want him and I to lock eyes and me to smirk and him to basically my smirk to say, "Gotcha, bitch." But that's just my little fantasy. And hopefully, with all the hearings, it'll come true. So the judge said the pretrial allows for continued discussion. There's a January 20th deadline for the government to decide if they are going to seek the death penalty. And then first she said the trial will be in October 2026. And I was like, October? And then I was like, okay. She said the trial will be about 4 weeks. And then she said October 6th. And then she backtracked and said, no, October 5th. And I was like, yes, because 5 is my favorite number. And yes, I'm making this about me, but 5, this is what the thoughts are going through my head as I'm trying to, scribble. And I even wrote a 6, and then I had to like scribble that out. October 5th. October's my favorite, fall is my favorite time of year. I was worried he was going to have a trial in the winter, and it's just so much harder to get down there in the winter, and just, you can't really stand out before. And, I was worried about that. I mean, I know, the people who follow who are coming to us from Free Karen Reed, you guys are used to getting out there in the snow, and it's just like, to do it once is one thing, but for me with my health, and I know like Barb has arthritis just like I do, and to stand out in the cold day after day after day would be hard. So sorry, Barb, to put your business out there. But so, I was just hoping that it would start, like, if we did get a trial early next year, that it would be like in April or May. So February, there's a deadline for February 2nd, but I didn't get to write that down. There's a lot of like deadlines, like it's like so back to back to back to back. I believe the hearing in February is February 27th, but we will have the full list once they release it. There's hearings in May. There's April, May, June, July, June 1st. It's May 1st, June 1st, July 1st. There's 2 hearings in August. In August is when it starts getting good. So around August might be when we start seeing him in court. Hey, Joe, thanks for coming in and joining us. Barb, we'll figure it out. If we can't be there every day for every hearing, that we can figure it out. But I personally want to be there every week, every day of the trial. I just don't know how I'm going to afford it. So I will try to figure it out. I think what I'll do for my birthday, I will ask for like gift certificates for my family, so I can just use that for the bus. I'll figure it out. And I'll see if I know anybody who's coming from up here. Yeah, that's what I figured. But I can't read my writing, but she said something about August. So, August 28th. Oh, August 28th. The prosecution has to release their witness list, and then September 26th, the defense has to release their witness list. There's a hearing on September 11th, on September 21st. I think that's when they start doing the motions in limine, but I could be wrong. Like I said, she was just like going through them, and I'm like, I can't write that like I said, when I say this judge is no nonsense, it was like a breath of fresh air. Like, she is like, when you think of Judge Bev, she is like the complete opposite of Kathy. I appreciate that, but unfortunately I can't take any money. I've promised the family I will not take any money. But I will figure it out. There's somebody else who lives fairly close to me, and if her and I can work out some of the dates that if she's going to dates, I'll figure it out. That was just my brain, like my OCD brain, not OCD, ADHD brain, like trying to think of like, oh crap, there's a lot of dates and it's going to be a 4-week trial. But I appreciate you so much, Kathy. I wish. I can't. You're funny though. Motions to dismiss has to be in by March 12th. And that's all the rest of I had written down. But the best part was when she said the trial date will be on October 5th, 2026. We have a date. Finally. At that point, it'll be more than 5.5 years that Sandra Birchmore hasn't gotten justice. And I'm so thankful. I wish I knew which station it was. I think it might have been Boston 25. They were the only ones who left in when Barb and let me backtrack. So after we left the courtroom, can I just say this courthouse is gorgeous. If you ever get a chance to go see a trial there, do, even if you just want to pop in and see what you can see. Like the view, the harbor views are amazing there. And you just feel like you're walking into like this amazing building. And so on our way out, I said to Barb, I'm like, you should introduce yourself to the prosecution. And she's kind of like, why? And I'm like, because you're her family. And before she could even say no, they are all like coming by, and I go, excuse me. And they all turn and look at me. I was like, my name's Mizzy. And I was like, and this is Barb. Barb is Sandra's cousin. And I just want to make sure she got to, you guys got to see her and she, got to meet you guys. And I said, we are so thankful. Something along the lines, we are so thankful that you guys are prosecuting him. And I said, and I run the Justice for Sandra Birchmore group. I think I said with Barb, I'm not sure. I was just kind of, trying to say it as fast as I could before. And I said, so if you guys need anything, please let us know. I said, the FBI has my contact information. If there's anybody I can get to you, if you need any other witnesses, if you have any questions that I might know that you guys don't know, I don't remember everything that I said, but I just wanted to make sure they knew who Barb was, because especially since, a lot of the, I think the closer it gets to trial, more of the family will start going, but I think Barb and I are going to go to most of them, and Barb's face will probably be the family in court the most up until we get to closer to the trial. So I wanted to make sure that they knew who Barb was, and Barb got her moment to say thank you. As a family member, this means so much to Barb. And I mean, like, I just wanted to make sure she, even though she was kind of like, but I was just like, no, I don't care. See, that's why you are like, Barb and I are yin and yang. Like, I don't care about putting myself out there. I'm not really socially awkward. Um, I, as you guys can see, I have a big mouth. I don't mind getting out there talking. So for me to say to the judge, I mean, not judge, I'm sorry, the prosecution, hey, this is her cousin. Like, there was one time, I'll give you an example. I was at a concert in New York many years ago, and Bam Margera was there, and my friend loved him. And she's like, oh my God, I want to meet him. And it was funny because she's not really a shy person normally. And I was like, well, let's go say hi. And she's like, no, I don't want to bother him. And I was a little shocked because I was like, wasn't expecting that from her. So I marched up to him. I was like, hey, Bam, it's nice to meet you. I was like, my friend is a huge fan of yours, and she would really like to meet you. And he was like, who? And I was like, my friend Steph over there. And he was like, and he like waved her over, like, girl, get over here. And like, he gave her a big hug, and he was really nice to her. And we stood and talked to him for a few minutes. And she was, and then like, we didn't want to stick around too much because then people started coming up, and we walked away. And she was like, thank you so much, Mizzy. And I was like, oh, no problem. It doesn't bother me to do that. There's probably a few people I could say on one hand that would really make me nervous. And like Stevie Wonder is one of those people, but I look at it, don't miss an opportunity that you can get. Although, Barb, you say you're socially awkward, so this is what I was kind of getting up to. So getting in and out of that courthouse is so confusing. Like, we all were riding up the elevator. There was 5 of us in the elevator. 5 or 6 of us, I can't remember. There was 5 of us who went up. And we're all standing there because I knew it was courtroom 10, and I thought it was on the 10th floor. But we're looking at the thing, and there's no 10th floor. But it says, then you look at and like, we're all like, so one button was pushed, and I'm like reading it. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. 10 through something is on, like, it was like the 5th floor. So we all got up there. We're all looking at each other like, yeah, we're dumb. So then on the way out, we went down, and there was a group that actually made it down before us or left before us. And it was me, Dana, and Peter, and we got down to the ground floor before they did. And we're like, how did we beat you? Because Peter was talking to his friend. So we were like, what? How do we beat you? So we're all trying to find our way out, and we couldn't. And then all of a sudden we look over, and Dana's out. And we're like, how did Dana get out? So we followed where he went, and we found our way out. It was like, I felt like we were in like one of those corn mazes. Yeah. No, I can't. We don't take. I can't take any Venmos or anything like that. I promised the family, it's because they don't want people making money off of it, and I promised them that I wouldn't take any money for covering Sandra's case and working on her case. I said, I mean, I did talk to their family. I gotta reach out to them to have a conversation, so I can grow my channel. So it's this weird, like, can I get members but not take super chats? So I got to reach out back to the family, just so, because I did get an answer, but I want to get that clarification. But I don't want to make money off of Sandra. I'm not here to make money off of Sandra. This is about, I just want this young woman to get justice. I was somebody who felt this young woman didn't have anybody, speaking out for her. And, that's when my friend and I talked and we did a deep dive, and that's how I met Barb, and then I created the page, and we started going. It's not about it for me. It's not about making money. It's about just being there for Sandra, getting her case out there. Not for nothing, this is like a full-time job for Barb and I. We do this almost 24/7, except when we're sleeping. But we do it because we love it, and that's all we just want to get Sandra justice. And we've both signed up to do this. So to me, that's payment enough. Yesterday was payment enough, getting to see that there is a trial date, because almost 3 years ago, in September of 2022 is when I found out about Sandra's case. And I started covering her case. And I made the page in early 2023. And it took 3.5 years to get this man off the streets. It's taken almost 5 years to get him to have a trial. So for us to hear yesterday that October 5th, 2026, he is going to trial. And the judge was basically like, I don't care what you guys want to do. He's going to trial on October 5th. There is one thing I want to back up to. We were all talking, everybody who was in there, and they said, you guys can keep coordinating. They used that phrase a lot. The prosecution said it, the defense said it, and the judge said it like 2 times. So that coordination, to me, there might be more behind. That's me maybe speculating. It's just my ears, every time that phrase was used, my ears perked up. And I would hope something is going on behind the scenes, and maybe that's why they need a year. But they also just brought the woman who's running the case now is a death penalty lawyer. This is a capital murder case. And I want to read something to you guys in a couple minutes that Barb and I were talking earlier, because I asked her if there was anything she wanted me to say. But anyway, so we go downstairs, and when you go into a federal building, you cannot bring your phone in. So you either have to leave it in your car or you have to put it in the cubby hole. So, we were getting our phone, and I thought Barb was standing with us, and I whipped my head around, and Barb was already out there talking to the press all by herself. So I was like, oh, well, Barb was already out there taking control. So I walked up so we could stand with her, and they were asking her a bunch of questions, and she was like a rock star out there. And whenever she takes control and starts, talking to the press, I just sit there and smile, and it warms my heart to see Barb taking control. And it was good to see, because they want to talk to her. She's her cousin, and because there's been so much silence with the family. So, they want to hear from the family. Yeah, go Barb. I agree. Whoops. I'd say it was almost all the local stations except Boston 10, I don't believe was there. I didn't see, so it was Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel Boston 25, and there were a couple other cameras. I saw a couple cameras. There was probably about 6 cameras maybe. But there was also reporters in that. There was a couple, yeah, and Dana was there too. Just resistant to silent was there. I looked up and I see Dana trying to like sneak his phone in between the cameras, and I kind of started chuckling. Yeah, and again, thank you, Dana, for coming out there. It was crazy for us all to get in. We all hit traffic. That's why Barb was late, was because there was so much traffic. There was an accident on the highway, and I mean, it took a lot of us to get in there. Yeah, Laura Grimaldi was there. I don't think she was at the little press thing, because she was upstairs writing when you guys left, she sat down and started writing her article, but she did cover the case, and the article is up. I implore you guys to go read the Boston Globe article. So, Laura, she's a supporter of the group, and, we support her and thank her because, she has been the one constant reporter on this case, and Boston Globe, the team around her. She actually just won an award last week for covering Sandra's case, and there isn't anybody who deserves it more than Laura, because she's gone above and beyond to keep covering this case. And so one of the things two things I always try to get in when the press ask me questions, because they asked Barb everything that they wanted to ask, and then somebody said, does anybody else want to speak? And I said, yeah, I'll speak. And I said what I had to say, but I always make sure to mention Michael Morrissey's office, and I say, why are we here? Why aren't there state charges? There's no reason for us to be at this federal courthouse, but we are glad because we got this monster off the streets. And I made sure to mention the medical examiner. And I said, why? There are 2 other pathologists who say Sandra was murdered, and it was a homicide. That's what they actually say. And why is this medical examiner not changing her death certificate? Why is she refusing to look back on her case to make sure she didn't get it wrong? And that is one of the clips that Boston 25 left in. And I was like, yes. I always throw it out there. Boston 10 has covered the case a lot, and I was surprised that they weren't there yesterday. But they never show that. They never put it up there. And it finally got they didn't mention Morrissey, or if some of the channels did, they just said, they say in a way like, Morrissey's office didn't file charges against him. They never say like, oh, this is an issue. It's not, they make it as a statement, not a question. And it needs to be a question. They need to go to his office and ask him, why haven't you filed any charges? And I'm so glad Boston 25, had the guts to keep that soundbite in. And that made me really happy. I actually just finally watched it earlier, and I was like, yes. So, we feel like the press they'll get more coverage, and things will get bigger the closer we get to trial. But that's where we come in. That's why our standouts, are so important. That's why, me continuing to do it on my channel, and for me to continue to go on other channels, it's so important. And speaking of that, I am going to be on the Canton Chronicle on Sunday. I'm not sure. I think they go live around 7. I'm not sure exactly, but check out social media because I'll definitely post about it. Dina, you do great. I've witnessed over the past few years having some involvement in the certain cases is people have found their voice and their courage. Yeah. And I think sometimes I fully agree with that, Dana. I think sometimes it takes, there's a thing called bystander effect, but it's also the opposite. It's the opposite of that. Like, bystander effect is if there's something happening like bad, like somebody being stabbed or somebody being robbed right in front of a group of people. And if one person doesn't step forward, the group doesn't, it takes that one person stepping forward. And for some reason, the bystander effect is, people are too afraid to step forward. And I think it goes for these type of things because we are going against the police. We're standing up to a district attorney's office. We're standing up to the Massachusetts State Police, the Canton Police Department, and the Stoughton Police Department, and the Massachusetts Medical Examiner. And I can see why people are scared. That is scary. And sometimes it takes that one person standing up, and then other people will come. And thankfully, people have come and joined us because I also said to the press, and this was actually in one of the reports too, and I was shocked that this got in. I said that the police discarded Sandra, and we aren't going to discard her. We are going to show up for her. And I'm glad they kept that in because that's what this case boils down to. From top to bottom, the police treated Sandra as a throwaway, and she wasn't a throwaway. And the rest of what I said, the quote was, Sandra's legacy is teaching the world about grooming. And I can't remember exactly what the rest of it was, like about how horrendous it is or something along those lines. And I'm so glad some of these quotes got in. They had some great quotes from Barb in there, and for the big haul of it, I think the press did pretty good. Although I found weird last night at the 11 o'clock news, the only station that had it on, I didn't check channel 4, but the only station that I saw it on was Boston 25, because I recorded all of them last night so I could watch them. So I thought that was a little weird, but it happens. So let me check out some of the chat. Yeah, see, that's the problem. Like, when we've met with a bunch of like reporters that aren't from here, like People Magazine, Dateline, and other reporters, the Marshall what is it called? The Marshall Project, and a lot of them ask, do we think there are other victims? And I always say yes. And they say, well, why haven't they come forward? I'm like, who are they going to come forward to? It's to the police. And even coming forward to the FBI is still scary for people because they live in these towns next to these cops. So even if they go, like, it's scary for Sandra's friends and family who are going to end up testifying. That's scary for people. But she needs them to do it. She needs them all to stand up. So No, I understand. I fully understand that. I get what you're saying. I just I just want to keep it like so there's not, you know, just to keep it clean. So um just scrolling back to see if there's any questions or comments. I didn't see any reporters tweeting from inside. Ted Daniel did tweet some stuff, so I don't know if because he has a bigger platform than maybe some of the Boston 25 reporter from inside, if they were, texting him and he was tweeting it out. So I don't know if that's how it was. But that's all I saw. And the courtroom wasn't packed. And this is the thing is, as I said to reporters, we're going to keep showing up for Sandra, but we need more of the public to show up for Sandra too. I understand there's like so much stuff still going on and people feel like they're pulled in different directions, but this case is still very, very important. And, we need people to keep showing up for Sandra. Yes, Mizzy, Barb, I'm an RN in Louisiana, and I'll help you with legislation federally for curriculum intervention and report abuse without bruises, going through my own legal issues and no voice, but no more. Yeah. I know there's a couple bills working their way through the Massachusetts legislature, but it would be nice if we can get some more federal stuff on the books. We shouldn't allow this stuff to happen. So try to think, is there anything else about what happened yesterday, Barb, you can think of? I do want to read what Barb and I talked about earlier. Let me see. Because I said, is there anything you want said? And she said, nothing in particular, since you always, I won't read this whole part. We both agree on the same things and focus on Sandra and her baby. And we both agree that Judge Casper put out a definitive timeline that was extremely gratifying to hear. I agree. And then I replied, Barb does not believe in the death penalty, and that's one of the questions they kept asking Barb. Because it is a capital murder case, they kept asking if, she thought he should be put to death. And, so Barb, said what she felt. She doesn't believe it. She thinks he should spend life in prison. And I said, the only thing we don't 100% agree on is death penalty. But that's just because I'm always conflicted on it. I tend to lean more on your side, especially with so many wrongful convictions. I feel it should be left for the worst of the worst, like serial killers. I also think before someone is put to death, the case should go before a review board that takes another look at the case and reruns DNA. I know that's expensive, but it's a life we are talking about. We have to do better than murderers. So, I've always been conflicted on the death penalty. I agree with Barb. We shouldn't just be taking lives. But like I said, I feel like it should be saved for the worst of the worst. And then you look at it. So I go back and forth. Well, Matthew is the worst of the worst who does this to a child and then ends up murdering her. That's bad. And then I go back and forth. But like I said, and when I say a review board, I don't mean go up to the net. Somebody goes through all their appeals and it's through the courts. No, I think it should be before a board that is part civilian and part law enforcement and whatnot, and they sit down and they go through the case, the whole case, and they look at, is there any holes in the case, and they test DNA, because there are so many people who have been exonerated when DNA is rerun or actually even tested. And that's my thing, is the what ifs we get the wrong person. But I'm like 100% sure it's Matthew Farwell who did this to Sandra. So, yeah, I don't have any problems with that we're getting the wrong person. So I'm going to show you guys a clip from Barb and I did Banfield last night, and Courtney was, she always sends it to me so I can post it on our page. She mentions a few times, excuse me, that about allegedly there's a phone call that Robert Devine made to Sandra the day that she was murdered. And I had talked to the producer earlier in the day, and I said, I don't know what you guys want to do with that. I know what my answer would be. And he was like, well, what's your answer? And we weren't asked this question, but I so wish we were. I would have said, that's really interesting. But my question is, who else was he talking to that day? Show us the rest of his records. I want to know, did he speak to Matthew Farwell that day? Did he speak to William Farwell that day? Did he speak to any other police officers that run in the, friend circle of the Farwells in Devine? I'm not talking about anyone on the force, just any of the officers who they were friendly with. And that's what I want to know. But she never asked that question. I was like, damn it, I have my answer already geared up. But let me just bring that up. Give me 1 second. Sorry, guys. I brought up the wrong window. I didn't.
It was a murder that was staged to look like a... It took more than 3 years to charge somebody with Sandra Birchmore's murder. It was a murder that was staged to look like a suicide, but at least we now know someone's going to go to trial for it, and that trial is 1 year from now. Her former married boyfriend, an ex-Massachusetts cop, Matthew Farwell, was just told by a federal judge that his trial is going to start October 5th, 2026. Former officer Farwell is accused of grooming Sandra Birchmore while she was an underage member of a youth program in the Stoughton PD. And when I say youth, she was barely just a teenager. When she died, Sandra was 23 and pregnant. Police found her hanging from a door handle in her own apartment back in 2021. And over time, her death gave rise to mind-blowing allegations of long-term sex abuse by Matthew Farwell and by his twin brother, William Farwell, who is also a cop, and by ex-Deputy Police Chief Robert Devine. Investigators uncovered text messages that appear to show that William, the brother, had sex with Sandra as recently as 22 days before she died. And Deputy Chief Robert Devine allegedly contacted Sandra Birchmore on the very day that she died for reasons unknown. Now, why would a deputy police chief be contacting a 23-year-old pregnant woman who long ago was in the Explorers program as a...
I just want to pop back in for a second. So, let me do this. So, Robert Devine at this time was not the deputy police chief. He had been demoted to a patrolman. And also, Barb and I were talking last night, and we both said that we both really like Ashley because she has become a friend to the Justice for Sandra Birchmore group. I can't even count how many times I've been on her show now. Barb's been on, I believe, twice now. And you know, they are always asking, hey, you know, can you come on and talk about this? Can you come on and talk about this? And I try to always make myself available to them. There's been a couple times I had to say no. Yeah, she's very supportive. Very supportive. And yeah, she's very supportive. And I like how she, you know, I like how she talks where she's very like, you know, some reporters are very stiff and like, today on the she's like, no motherfuckers, you know, like I like how she's more like, yeah, this, I am telling you the business, not like, you know, not this stuffy type person. She's more, I think she's more, you know, ballsy when the way she talks, lays out a case. And I love that about her. And like I said, they've become such a friend to the show, to the group. And, you know, even the nights that I haven't been able to go on because I haven't felt well or something, you know, they've done amazing reports about the show, about Sandra's case. And, you know, shout out to Banfield for continuing to cover Sandra's case. You know, like I said, they've become such a good friend to the Justice for Sandra Birchmore group. Okay, let me switch back the screens and damn it, sorry.
Sandra's baby. And she apparently thought so too. But the DNA tests that were conducted after she died, those were a shocker. They showed that Matthew Farwell was not actually the father. And we don't yet know who was. But for now, Matthew is the only person facing any criminal charges in Sandra Birchmore's death, and he may well face the death penalty if convicted. That is some of the evidence they'll see. That's him walking to her apartment. That's the night before she died, or at least was found dead. Feds have until January to decide if they're going to pursue death. And there is a ton to unpack here. So I am pleased to be joined once again by Melissa Berry, who operates the Justice for Sandra Birchmore Facebook page, and she was in the courtroom today. I also want to welcome Barbara Wright, a cousin of Sandra's, who was Sandra's mother figure after Sandra's own mother died. And she was also in the courtroom today. Melissa and Barb, thank you so much, both of you. And again, my condolences go out to you. I know it's been 5 years, but I don't think that ever gets any easier. And so I'll be as delicate as I can with these tough questions. Melissa, can I start with you? Farwell was not in that courtroom today, which I think is odd, but what was the mood like? Can you just take me there and tell me a little bit about what was happening?
Yeah, the judge came up and she was no nonsense. And she basically said, I have dates for you. And she ticked through all the dates that are going to happen throughout the next year. And so we were excited to find out, the last date was his trial date.
And Melissa, this is like Whitey Bulger's judge, right? This is one of those real no nonsense judges, as I recall. What was the courtroom like? I know that Sandra, lost her mom and had a difficult family life. And Barb, you stepped in as a mother figure. Were there a lot of people there for her? Were there people there for Farwell?
I'm not really sure. I got there a little bit late, and I'm really not sure who was there exactly. Most of the people, I think, were there for Sandra, though. I would say the majority.
Yeah, Melissa, did you get a read on who was who in that courtroom?
Yeah, I believe most of the people there were for Sandra and were reporters. There was a few people in the back that I didn't know who they were, but most of the people were there for Sandra, as far as I could tell.
Well, and sometimes it's, 5 years is half a decade, and it can take a long time, and it can take its toll on people's memories and their, their resilience and coming out to support in justice like this. Barb, do you feel, even though it's 5 years, that the wheels of justice are finally turning?
I do. Finally, yes. It's a long time coming. Yes.
Yeah. 5 years is a long time.
Did you guys see the smile on Barb's face? I gotta stop right there. I could bring myself back in. Did you see how, like, when Barb went to answer that question, the smile she got, just to say it, I could tell you how I feel about, there being a date, but like, imagine being a family member, who has been waiting almost 5 years for answers and for Matthew to be put in jail. It's just to have that date is like, it's such an amazing feeling. And, every time we talked about it yesterday, Barb would smile, and that was, the most best part of the day was like, to see a family member be able to smile and say like, yeah, we finally have a trial date. I want to go back to a question up here. Let me see. Why don't we know who the father is? Is it protected info? Well, you got to think of it this way. It doesn't do any good for the case to put that info out. That might be something that they want to hold close to the vest to be used in trial. So I know a lot of people have this, of course, I want to know who the father is. But that's like secondary, to what's going on here, because the baby wasn't his motive. It was his secret getting out. And like Barb said, They all had, she said right here, all three had strong motive for ending Sandra's life. She was about to out them all. And that's the truth. It's not about this baby. Yes, the baby might be a part of it. The baby might have been the unraveling of Sandra's situation. But knowing who the father is doesn't, change what Matthew did. And I hate to say Matthew like we're friends. What Farwell did. It doesn't change what happened. And it wasn't his motive. The motive was she was telling too many people. And let me go back to, for those who haven't heard the story, about 2 weeks before Sandra was murdered, her friend called the Stoughton Police Department because Sandra owed her money. Or owed them. I don't know if it's a male or a female. I've always assumed it was a female, but I don't know. I can't remember if it does say she in somewhere in the reports. About 2 weeks before she was murdered. I think it was January 20th or 19th. It's one of those days. This friend calls the Stoughton Police Department because Sandra owes her money and Sandra's dodging her. And she calls and says, hey, this girl, Sandra Birchmore, she's not giving me back my money. I want you guys to do something about it. And they basically say, ma'am, sorry. That's a civil case. We can't do anything about that. And the friend replies, well, you tell Matthew Farwell to tell his girlfriend to give me back my money. This was a big thing for him. The person went to Farwell instead of telling a superior. And Farwell lost his shit. And from that day on, he started plotting her death. He started looking around her apartment for places to do what he had planned. He went to her closet and inspected her closet. I think he was looking for a place where it could support her weight. He went into, I think he checked the doorknob specifically. He was checking in the bathroom, and he was also being very nice to Sandra. Now, you got to understand, once he found out she was pregnant, it was a very contentious situation. They were getting into physical altercations. Now, you got to understand, too, on top of that layer, the sexual relationship between them was violent. She was used to him choking her. That's why I feel like she was so used to it, she wouldn't have saw this coming. And he would make her pretend to be a 13-year-old or a young, maybe it might have been 14. He would make her role play with all these things. And because Sandra was so tiny, she looked like a child. Hey, Sean. How's it going? So we have the 2 weeks that led up to her death, but before that, there were violent altercations. There was one time he shoved her into a wall. There was another time he snatched the phone out of her hand and told her, I hope you die, or I hope you kill yourself. So there was a lot of stuff leading up to her death. And that phone call to Stoughton PD is what like lit the match. Like the kindling was all there. This bonfire was all set up. Somebody just needed to throw the match on the flame, and that did it. And he started being weird and nice, and Sandra was like, "Oh, he's being nice to me. Oh, he asked for a key to her apartment." She was like, "He's being weird, but it's nice. He brought me ginger ale," things like that. So it wasn't the baby. Yes, the baby had some part to do with it, but it was his secret was getting out. She was saying she was going to call his wife. That's what one of the altercations was. She told him, "I'm going to call your wife, or I'm going to text your wife," and he snatched the phone out of her hand. And she even texted him, you scared me tonight. That's why I was crying." So there was already violence in what was going on between them. And then, like I said, that 2-week period, the FBI says that is when he decided, and he knew he had to shut her up. She was talking too much. He even asked her how many other people, who else is going to come out of the woodwork? How many other people are going to call my job? What other shoe is going to drop? So he was coming unglued because he was about to lose everything. And if it came out, like Barb said, all three of them had motive. If it came out about Matthew, you dang sure that it was going to come out about William and Divine and anyone else who was involved in this case. There's a military recruiter. And there's also Joshua Heel, the former Stoughton animal control officer who went on to become an Abington officer. So us knowing who the father is, yeah, of course, we'd all love to know. I mean, of course, that's part of the puzzle. It's one of the bombshells that dropped about her case. When things didn't, when we didn't think things could get crazier, that shoe dropped. I mean, like literally, Annie and I were we had done a standout at Michael Morrissey's, our Stronger Together standout. And I can't even, Barb, I don't even know if we went out to lunch. We might have after. And then we dropped Barb off and we're driving. Annie's driving me to the train station. We probably were like 5 minutes from Barb's house. And she calls me. And Barb doesn't usually call me. I'm usually the one who calls her. And she's like, "He's not the father." Like, I couldn't talk for like 10 minutes. Like, I literally shit my pants, because I was like, well, I didn't, but like, I was like, what the fuck? Like, I just sat there. Like, I'm glad I had a bus ride home, because I just sat there like, people probably thought I was a lunatic on the bus, because I was literally like this the whole time. The whole time, just mouthing what the fuck over and over and over again. Yeah, so yes, we all want to know who the father is, but it kind of doesn't. I mean, it matters for the abuse side of Sandra. And was it somebody who she was dating? Because she did have relationships besides these guys. So was it somebody she was dating, and which that would have been nice, because it would have been somebody who was normal and somebody who wasn't abusing her. Or was it one of these scumbag asshole pieces of shit? Yes, his wife gave birth 12 hours after Sandra was murdered. So on the 2nd. So, and he used that as part of his cover, you know. But I just wanted to kind of talk about that. Oh, thank you for being replay, Red Sea Star. Thank you. We all want to know, because it's like that, almost like it's that juicy gossip that we gotta find out, you know. But at the end of the day, it's not why he murdered her. See, I don't think it's his brother, because unless the person who gave the tip to, there's two options with this. Unless the person, the people who gave the tip to the Boston Globe about him not being the father were trying to protect William, or he just wasn't. Because I feel like they would have said, you know, they said he wasn't the father. And I assume if William was, they would have said there was a familiar match. So basically, you know, because him and his brother are fraternal twins, so they're not exactly a match to each other, you know. So their DNA is connected, so, you know, it would come up as a partial match. So I feel like that they might have said it, unless the person who was leaking this information was trying to also protect William. That those to me are the two scenarios about that. Yes. It has come out that he called her that day. Oh yeah, there's definitely a lot more to the story. That's why I said I don't know if you were here when I was talking about at the beginning of when I started playing this, because that was the question that I wish Banfield had asked. Because when I talked to the producers at the beginning, I had said I knew what my answer would be who else. It's not about who that he talked to Sandra that day. It's about who else did he talk to that day. A medical examiner can't be instructed to change a report unless it's their boss, and their boss is the one who did the autopsy review. But the medical examiner refuses to change that. Okay, let me play some more.
Melissa, there was a lot of talk of cooperation in that courtroom. Can you explain what it was in that courtroom that was leading to people discussing a good cooperative effort in this trial?
Yeah, it was mentioned a few times. I know at least once by the prosecution, once by the defense, and then I believe the judge mentioned it twice. So it made my ears perk up. I don't know what that's alluding to, but it definitely piqued my interest that, you know, what has been going on behind the scenes with, you know, the defense and prosecution.
Yeah, Barb, one of the things that
Dana, I'll come back to your question when we're done watching this, because I will read you guys the medical examiner's statement that they gave to Dateline. I don't know why it keeps changing off
that anybody who saw the scene of this alleged suicide would have ever for a minute thought it was a suicide. It was absolute garbage. Forensically, it didn't make sense. how she was hanging in particular from the door handle. There were all sorts of other clues, you know, excited baby clothes, and there was laundry that was in the, you know, those are things that people who are about to take their own lives just don't do. They're not in the middle of doing. But the death certificate still says suicide. Do you have any idea why? And has anybody talked to you through this process from the victim's advocate point of view?
I have not talked to anybody from a victim's advocate point of view, but I know that the Boston ME insists on her initial decision based on what she saw at the time, shortly after Sandra's death. And I don't know why she doesn't want to change her decision. We've got two other, people saying, you know, experts saying it was definitely not a suicide. So.
Yeah, and Melissa, you know how this works. When it comes to trial, that's something that Matthew Farwell's defense attorney is going to lean on heavily. It can't be a murder if the medical examiner thinks it was a suicide. And then, of course, these other experts, it will be a battle of the experts, so to speak, in the courtroom. Do you have any idea, Melissa, why it is that the ME is intransigent in this case about changing the death certificate from suicide to murder, if clearly enough people believe that she was murdered to charge this man?
Yeah, I find it odd that the statement that was released says something to the effect that at the time of my findings, you know, that was the evidence I went by. But, you know, a medical examiner can go back to a case and reopen it and look over it to make sure that it was done properly and the right outcome is what they determined. And for some reason, this medical examiner is sticking to what her first findings were and doesn't want to budge on this. And it makes no sense to a lot of people.
And we have felt that a lot in the Ellen Greenberg case as well, where a medical examiner believed a woman stabbed herself 20 times, 10 times to the back of her head and neck, and it's still a suicide in their books. It's confounding to the rest of us.
All right, let me bring myself back in and answer Dana's question. It kind of goes, it goes with everything. Let me bring that up. Yeah, KM, while I bring it up. Oh, sorry. I hit the wrong button. KM, let me go back up to, yeah, when it comes to the Karen Reed case, when Proctor got up and testified, my heart sank. Because those text messages where they were talking and joking and laughing about putting pressure on a medical examiner, and luckily that medical examiner didn't budge. For me, I was like, this has to be what happened in Sandra's case. Because for a medical examiner to see a broken hyoid bone and still call it a suicide is freaking insane to me. You know, there were two independent pathologists who have looked at the case. Dr. Bodden, he released his statement that it was a homicide in June of 2023. Right, sorry, 2024. And then Dr. Smock, when they arrested him, his findings on Sandra's case are in the FBI affidavit. And he said that there were signs of a struggle, that Sandra had abrasions on her nose, that she had blunt force trauma to her upper chest. The buckle from the ligature is what there was an impression on her upper chest. So I assume he might have punched her with it and it left he hit her so hard it left an impression, or he was holding her down and that's how it left the impression. But the buckle was not found here. It was found up by, I believe, her right ear. So how is she getting an impression on her chest when the buckle is by her ear? And then her necklace was ripped off and it was hanging. And when they moved her, it fell on the ground, and the Massachusetts State Police never collected it. So let me bring up the and thank you to Boozy for allowing me to use her. Let me send this to myself. Let me try to send this to myself because last time it didn't work. So I can put it on the screen for you guys. What the heck? Give me 1 second, guys. Why does this thing not want me to send this to myself ever? Like I tried to do it last time. Let me do it this way. Yeah, last time I sent it to myself and the message wasn't showing up. It's weird. Paste. All right, let me get that. So, one of her family members, Dana. Yeah, it was one of her family members. I think I don't know if it was her cousin or it was when they were cleaning the house out. They found it and they were like, "Whoa, wait a minute. This is kind of crazy. There's evidence here." And unfortunately, they turned it over to the Massachusetts State Police because they thought the Massachusetts State Police were going to do their job and investigate this case properly. And of course, we know how that went. Let me see if I got it. Give me 1 second, guys. Actually, you know what? So I don't have to switch screens and start it. No, we'll do this because I still have it on this screen. Sorry, of course, my computer's running really slow. There we go. Yay. Okay. So let me exit. I am going to read this off my phone just because I can read better from my phone, but I'm going to take myself off the screen so you guys can see this. Oh, I hope you can see it better when I zoom in because I think there's a glare. Are you guys able to see that? I'm going to read it off my phone anyway. Okay. Okay. The Office of Medical Examiner, the Office of Chief Medical Examiner statement. The Massachusetts Office of Chief Medical Examiner remains dedicated to upholding the highest standard of forensic pathology and death investigation, guided by professionalism, integrity, and compassion. Our mission is to provide accurate, science-based, and impartial determination in every case. The Office of Chief Medical Examiners, or OCMs, conclusions regarding the tragic and untimely passing of Miss Birchmore were based on evidence available at the time of the determination. Our skilled medical examiners are fully prepared to contribute their expertise to the legal process, ensure a detailed and transparent analysis of all relevant factors. As with every case, the OCME will review any additional evidence submitted by investigating authorities to verify its consistency with the cause and manner of death findings. Well, there's one problem with that. There's a big problem with that. 9 days before Farwell was arrested, the FBI came to you and said, listen, y'all are wrong. Here's Dr. Smock. He's an expert in strangulation. And he went through the reasons why this was a homicide, not a suicide. And also, with this time of Matthew Farwell being arrested, see, I could see them being like, no, we got it right. I can't see it, but I could see them, the FBI comes to them, they're like, no, we got it right. But then you go back and review. You ask the FBI to hand over whatever they have that shows that Matthew did this, so they can look at it and say, wait a minute, we got this wrong. But of course, they haven't. And it's going to be a problem when this goes to trial. Because they are going to say, like Ashley said, they are going to say, wait a minute, the medical examiner is saying that this is a suicide. How can you, how does this work? Yes. Yeah, I fully agree with that. Fancy words on a paper don't mean shit when you haven't done your job. So, all right, let me play this, and then we can, ask and answer some questions so we can wrap up tonight. Whoops, wrong thing. All right, give me a second. It's like, because I got to switch back. That's one of the things that I know a lot of other creators, I know a lot of other creators say this. I'm sure you guys have heard people say it. I've heard Melanie Little say it a bunch of times, that it should be easily done. It should be easy to toggle back and forth from documents and videos and things, but it's not. What the heck? I have no idea what just happened to my screen. Oh, God.
I think it's a fair one. You know, the prosecutors have until January 20th to decide if they're going to seek death in the penalty phase if they get a conviction against Matthew Farwell. You are the mother figure to this. I look at her, I think she's a baby. You know, I often feel like Sandra Birchmore was just a child. Do you want death penalty in this case?
I do not. Basically because of my faith, I don't believe in the death penalty, but I would like to see life without parole, without it, you know, this life.
Yeah. Well, that can often be, as we've said earlier in the show, as painful to hear for a defendant or a recently convicted as death. I can't thank you enough, both. Melissa Berry, thank you. Barb Wright, thank you both. And let's continue to be in touch as the case continues.
Thank you for having.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So I was trying to bring up a bunch of the news coverage from the week, but it like I said, the only nobody has it on their pages, so it's kind of weird. I'm gonna look to see if I can find it on I was on Boston 25 this afternoon trying to, bring that up, but I couldn't get it up. So I'm going to see if I can find it on any of the other news stations. Channel 7 played it a lot of times yesterday, so that was great. And Barb, did you say that was Channel 7 who played it again this morning? So that was great. Thank you, Dana. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining me tonight. Did you guys have any other questions? Okay, Barb. Okay, go find out what's going on. Thank you for watching the chat. And I'll talk to you later. Does anybody have any other questions or concerns or any questions about yesterday? Because, I don't know if you were here the whole time, Dana. Is there anything that you can think of that I missed from the hearing yesterday? The only thing I can reiterate is the judge was fast and furious with the dates, and I'm trying to get them, and I'm trying to be because I'm trying to write down, because she goes in, she says a quick sentence about what that date is for. And I'm like, what? And then she's on to the next date. So I missed half of the dates. There is there's a hearing every month for the next year. So except November, the next one's in December. And actually, let me talk about that. So thank you, Dana. The hearing that is in December, it's kind of weird. Because his hearing on the 6th, on October 6th, was canceled, and they moved it to the 16th of December. And then they kept the hearing yesterday, but this was in front of who the trial judge is. So this was in front of Judge Casper. The one that was on the 6th was supposed to be in front of the other judge who was doing the pre-trial stuff before they got into the good stuff, where you start seeing the movement on the case. And I find it weird that they're going back in front of this other judge instead of, I don't know if it's because Judge Casper has so many dates, she has stuff that she has to get done, before the holidays. But I find that really weird that they're going back in front of another judge, the old judge, instead of staying with Casper. So that's the one thing I really found weird yesterday. And the other thing was where they kept saying cooperating. So, yeah. Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you. Dana. My first time in federal court, just the demeanor and professionalism was good to see. The prosecution introducing themselves for the United States stuck with me somehow. The history, etc. Yeah, I agree. It just makes you realize what a shit show Judge Bev's court was. You know, it really was, like a circus. Just the difference, the demeanor, that, like you said, the professionalism, how this judge came in, it was no nonsense, and I think this judge would have no. Dana? Could you imagine? Just think of if we took Karen's case, trial that happened last year, and plopped it in front of this judge, and Brennan came in and acted the way he did, and she already knows Brennan because Brennan was Whitey Bulger's attorney. So she probably already had some feelings about him, but I don't know if she does. But anyway, so it's just the difference. And yes, state court's always going to be different from federal court. They don't allow cameras in, and it's a totally different thing. So because they don't allow cameras in, if you want to see anything with this case, you're going to have to deal with my shoddy notes, or come and support, a day or two, when you can. I'm sure that, there was a lot of seats open in the courtroom, and I think once the trial comes, it'll be packed. So if you want to, see some of the process going on and get some time in the courtroom, this might be your best way of doing it. Yes, it won't be as interesting and as fun, but there's going to be some stuff coming up in these hearings. There's always stuff that comes out in these hearings, especially if the defense does do a motion to dismiss, which I assume they would. Any good lawyer does a motion to dismiss. Yeah, I fully agree. She wouldn't have dealt with 90% of the bullcrap. Could you imagine the prosecution in her court putting that video, that inverted video on, Dana? Could you imagine that? She would have dismissed the case with prejudice, and Karen would have been done the second that video went on the screen. And all the times that they keep saying they're hiding the ball, they're not giving us discovery, they're not giving us discovery, they're not allowing us to see the evidence. I don't think this judge will go for that. And, his lawyer was very, very professional. It was all around. They were very, very professional. So it was a breath of fresh air. Yeah, that's Dana. The way he acts in court, in both courtrooms. When we left the courtroom, when we were walking out, I was like, because I found out when we were inside the courthouse that she had done the Whitey Bulger, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to go back and watch that. And I'm like, oh crap, I can't because there's no cameras. I would love to be able to see some of that. yeah, just none of that, like you said, the gaslighting, the belittling, the of course, lawyers are allowed to get their punches in, but metaphorically, with words. But Brennan went this like disgusting, nasty route. He forgot that he was the white hat. He was the prosecution. He was supposed to be the good guys, and he was just a defense lawyer for the Commonwealth. That's all he was. He was there to cover some ass. That's all he was there for. Oh, I would love to see how that all went down. And I cannot wait to get this rocking and rolling, because it's going to be an interesting year. And like I said, there'll be plenty of hearings for people to go to. There is almost one every month. And then when we get to July, maybe, I know in August, I believe there's 2 dates. I think there's 2 dates in September. Well, there's definitely probably going to be 2 or more in September, but there's 2 dates on the docket. And she did say if we need to add, we will add. So August, September, there might be like more than what's on the calendar. But she is definitely, saying this is going to trial on the 5th of October 2026. And thank you that we finally have a date. Yeah, I agree, Dana. So does anybody have any other questions? I hope I didn't miss any. I know sometimes it's hard to get all the questions come up when you're trying to try to show videos, and I'm trying to get better at that. Yeah. Morbid question. Do you think they will let him live to see a trial or plea? Oh yeah, he's in protective custody. I mean, yeah, people can get to people, but he's in protective custody. So, I mean, that doesn't always mean anything, because I fully believe that Epstein was murdered. If I'm a baby conspiracy theorist, okay, but I think he was murdered. So, and that was federal court. That was federal, prison. So, I think he'll see his day in court, or at least a plea. And I don't know for sure. Dana, since you're here, did you get that feeling when they kept saying, like, in coordination, you're coordinating? Did you get that feeling that it was like being nice coordination, or there was like something going on? Because like I said, that phrase along those lines was used more than once. I know it was used by the feds. I know it was used by the defense at least once each. And I think the judge said it a minimum of 2 times. She might have said it more. What is your read on that? Since Barb isn't here, so you'll be the person that I'm kind of like riffing off. I will be doing a show most likely Monday. Okay. Yeah, they did say it a few times. Did your like, your spidey sense go like, because I was like, wait a minute. They keep saying that. And I don't know if it felt like we were in, it felt like, when you're out with some friends who have gone and hung out with each other, and there's some secrets, or, there's some inside jokes that you don't know. That's what it kind of felt like. Like there was a inside joke that not that it was a joke, but there was a secret that we didn't know. Everybody who was sitting in the audience didn't know that these three sides knew. So that's how I felt. But anyway, that's just me, you know, my ears perking up every time it was said, like, they've said that a few times. So yeah, as I was saying, I'm going to do a show most likely Monday, because Monday night's my normal night. If not, I'll let you guys know. I'm trying to get more consistent. It's just, it's hard sometimes with my health. I am going to drop the link to Resistant to Silence again. Let me. For you guys to go follow, because they are starting to, they're going to be streaming as many standouts as they can. And I'm so glad that we all teamed up, because it helps, you know, us smaller, you know, creators, you know, help each other, you know. Like tonight, I'm so thankful for the people who are here, because I know that there are like a few bigger creators who I think Melanie Little's on right now. Like I saw her half-hour stream, like the thing come up that, you know, she was going to be on in a half hour. I was like, oh no, but it is what it is. When you're a smaller channel, you appreciate the people who do stick with you and watch you, in lieu of going to some of the bigger channels. It means the world to us when people do. Oops. Come on. Oops. All right, let me drop that in there. Go follow their channel so you can watch our live streams when we do our standouts. And, you know, hopefully once, especially during the trial, it would be nice to, if they can get somebody there almost every day, since they have such a big group. But we'll talk about that when the time comes. I appreciate you, life artists, and I appreciate all of you coming here to learn about Sandra's case and to, you know, have a back and forth and you know, talk about things here. You know, Sandra's case is a hard case to cover. It's a hard case to live in every day, but it's something that needs to be done. And as I said yesterday, Sandra's legacy is that she is going to teach the world about grooming and what happens to a child. And I'm just thankful to be able to facilitate some of that getting out. And now that we know what this year is going to be, we're going to start buckling up, batten down, and getting more information out to you guys, because we want you to be able to tell people, you know, strike up a conversation with a friend or a family member and say, hey, have you heard about the Sandra Birchmore case? You know, hey, you might want to look at it just so you know how to handle grooming and to teach your kids, type deal thing. That's a way you can, you know, show it to people, friends and family. Because you know, it's a word of mouth thing. It's not just me. It's not just Barb. It's we need everybody to, like, you know, pass it on so people learn about her case, because that is her legacy. Her legacy is not what happened to her, what Sandra went through. Her legacy is teaching the world about grooming so this doesn't happen to another child. There should never be another Sandra Birchmore, especially at the hand of the police. We can't not allow police officers to do this to children or anyone, because you don't have to be a child to be groomed. It's just, it's more horrific when it's a child. But we can't allow this to continue. And that's why her case is so important. And I thank all of you for being here. And thank you for joining, Maria. Thank you for being in our replay. Thank you, everyone. Love you guys. You guys are awesome. And whoops, I almost just threw my microphone across the room. That's the problem with having long fingernails. They get caught on stuff. Let me try to end it again. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for being a part of this. It means the world to me. It means the world to Barb. And keep an eye on social media, because I will let you know when I'm doing my next show. I believe it will be Monday night. If not, I will post to let you guys know. Thank you, everybody who joined me, and thank you, everyone who's going to be on the replay. You guys have a great night. Have a wonderful weekend. I am Mizzy, and I'm a mixed girl in a mixed up world. Thank you, guys.